Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. DOJ panic as Trump plans to fire all of Jack Smith's career prosecutors. Did these guys really think they could get together with Jack Smith? And they knew what his reputation was. They knew that Jack Smith tried this kind of political prosecution against the governor of Virginia years ago and lost that case unanimously at the Supreme Court. The whole point of Jack Smith's prior case was to ruin that governor politically so that the guy could never run for president. Similarly, he tried to ruin Trump so Trump couldn't run for president. That didn't work out so well for Jack Smith. But the prosecutors are not like people making photocopies. These are people that get together, they scheme, they write up paperwork, they know exactly what they're doing when they prepare legal briefs, when they pursue these things, that they're pushing a theory that really isn't all that legitimate. It was very political. The January 6th prosecution, the prosecution about the Mar-a-Lago documents case, all of these were what you would call novel theories. They even called them novel theories. Theories that would creatively apply rules and laws in unique situations that had never been done to a former president before, just to ruin the guy. Trump wound up having to spend $100 million or more defending against these cases. Ultimately, Trump was vindicated. Now he's won the presidency. And of course, he's going to not only fire Jack Smith, he's going to fire anybody who was willing to be involved with any of these cases. That's DOJ prosecutors, career or not, FBI people, anyone involved with these cases are getting thrown out of the DOJ or getting thrown out of the FBI, wherever they came from, to come together under Jack Smith to do these political prosecutions. Because it's not just about getting revenge on these people or causing these people to have to pay a price, which of course he wants them to have to do. But it's about preventing this cabal, this group of people who got together to do this thing, to do it again. To him during his presidency, to other people in the administration, and after he leaves the presidency. You don't want these people around infecting the Justice Department. From the Washington Post, Trump plans to fire Jack Smith's team and to use the DOJ to probe the 2020 election. If he uses the DOJ to probe the 2020 election, Trump could just start by saying, okay, Bill Barr said we thoroughly investigated this. Here's his investigative file. We know that there's no case going forward. No one's being pursued for any criminal reasons with regards to the 2020 election, so except for Trump. So there's no reason that the DOJ can't just release Bill Barr's criminal file showing all of the work that Bill Barr did to pursue 2020 election fraud. Bill Barr claims it was extensive. People that are questioning it claim that, no, it really wasn't extensive. He just said, don't bother with this. Don't pursue this. We'll see what the truth is now that Trump is going to have control of the Justice Department. President-elect Donald Trump plans to fire the entire team that worked with special counsel Jack Smith to pursue 2 federal prosecutions against the former president, including career attorneys typically protected from political retribution, according to 2 individuals close to Trump's transition. Here's how many people this actually is. Also from the Washington Post, the effort involved at least 40 lawyers, plus FBI agents and support staff, based on court filings and interviews with people familiar with the special counsel's office. Some of these people were working on the investigation even before Attorney General Merrick Garland tapped Smith in November to serve as a special counsel, because they were pursuing these things against Trump even before charges were filed against Trump. Those people have been involved as a little group, as a little cabal, to go after Trump and do political prosecutions. So you really think there's any chance Trump is going to allow these people to stay in the Justice Department, to stay in the FBI? No, these are the troublemakers. These are the people that will rise up again and cause more trouble using the authority and using the reputation of the United States Department of Justice and the FBI to go after their political enemies. Of course, you don't want people doing that at the government. It also sends a powerful message to anyone who would get involved in something like this, to anyone who would say, you know what, maybe I can get a promotion if I do some of these dirty deeds. I'll jump onto that team. It makes them think twice to realize, no, maybe you don't want to do that. And yes, there's a possibility these people could sue the federal government if Trump throws them out of the Department of Justice, throws them out of the FBI, and try to say, well, I didn't get my due process or whatever. Sure, that's always possible. No one cares as long as these people are not allowed to do this kind of thing anytime ever again. Trump is also planning to assemble investigative teams within the Department of Justice to hunt for evidence in battleground states that fraud tainted the 2020 election. The proposals offer new evidence that Trump's intention to dramatically shake up the status quo in Washington is likely to focus heavily on the Justice Department. He's going to do it everywhere, but absolutely he's focused on the Justice Department. Then they can't have another special counsel or whatever other nonsense they come up with, secret investigations of Trump. They're on notice at that point. If you do this, he may very well catch you, and you don't want him catching you while he's president of the United States. Asked about Trump's plans to fire prosecutors on Smith's team and investigate the 2020 election, a Trump spokeswoman echoed the president-elect's frequent claim that the Justice Department cases against him were politically motivated. Quote, President Trump campaigned on firing rogue bureaucrats who have engaged in the illegal weaponization of our American justice system, and the American people can expect he will deliver on that promise, according to Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt in a statement. Quote, one of the many reasons that President Trump won the election in a landslide is Americans are sick and tired of seeing their tax dollars spent on targeting the Biden-Harris administration's political enemies rather than going after real violent criminals in our streets. Trump still speaks frequently about the 2020 election, which he supposedly lost to Joe Biden, but continues to insist was stolen from him in key battlegrounds. And he has maintained from the start that Smith's investigations into his efforts to reverse his defeat, as well as his alleged mishandling of classified documents after he left the White House, are examples of the weaponization of government against him that must be avenged. Well, I mean, he can't exactly just let it all go unless he agrees with them and said, you know what, you guys were right. Thanks for not catching up to me fast enough. No, I don't think he really agrees with them. Most of us don't agree with them. We want to see the documentation. We want to see what these guys were up to. What were these scheming and planning behind the scenes to come up with these novel prosecutions? As he again becomes president, Trump wants to, quote, clean out the bad guys, the people who went after me, said one of the individuals familiar with the plans, who, like the other person, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss private deliberations about the incoming Trump administration. The anonymous source noted that the idea of assembling investigative teams of federal agents and prosecutors in battleground states is less well-formed and not at the top of the list, unlike the president-elect's often proclaimed desire to clean house at the Justice Department. Trump reiterated that goal on Thursday, after his first pick for Attorney General, former Congressman Matt Gaetz, withdrew from consideration. Well, for too long, the partisan Department of Justice has been weaponized against me and other Republicans, Trump wrote when announcing his new pick, longtime ally Pam Bondi, in a post on Truth Social. Quote, not anymore. Pam will refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again. It's not clear how quickly or easily Trump could fire career staff, including the prosecutors who worked for Smith, on the classified documents and the election obstruction cases. Appeals on several fronts delay the cases from going to trial before the November election, and Justice Department policy prohibits prosecuting sitting presidents. Although it's just kind of ridiculous because if Trump is the sitting president and they want to try to prosecute him, he does control the Justice Department. That's been decided by the Supreme Court. It's well within his authority to say, no, prosecute this, don't prosecute that. Prosecute those people, but don't prosecute that person. He has that discretion as the chief executive of the executive branch. He could also pardon someone. He has pardon power. He doesn't need other people's permission to do that. That's something else the Supreme Court made clear. And those things can't be investigated as corrupt or an abuse of power when he does it within his presidential realm of authority. All of these crazy Jack Smith prosecutions meant to interfere with him politically and try to ruin him actually had the Supreme Court completely challenge the idea of, can you even prosecute a president for abuse of power? Are you allowed to look behind? Can the judicial branch go ahead and judge a president and say, look, I think this was an abuse of power. I'm a judge. So the judicial branch cannot stand in judgment of the executive branch. People in the executive branch, yes, but not the unitary executive, not the chief executive officer, not the president. The president has ultimate authority in the executive branch. And if not for the dopey Jack Smith cases, we would not have had that decision from the Supreme Court. So these guys really shot themselves in the foot when they went after Trump. And as far as Trump firing certain people in the Justice Department, even if they're career officials, they could always be reassigned somewhere, even out of state, or given a lower position that they would consider beneath them because they're so full of themselves. It's very easy to get rid of people you don't want to have there, and sure, they might sue the government eventually. They may even win against the government, but they won't be able to cause more trouble in the future, and they will also send a clear message to anyone else who would fool around with political prosecutions. It's not worth the risk. Before Trump left office in 2021, he passed an executive order known as the Schedule F rule, which would have reclassified huge swaths of career government employees and made it easier to fire them. It would have given them the status of fireable. That's where the letter F came from. Taking career employees and classifying them as essentially the same as political employees. Biden reversed that order when he entered the White House, and his administration finalized rules through the Office of Personnel Management, bolstering protections for career staffers. Trump has vowed to reinstate the Schedule F rule, however. Even if he succeeds, legal experts said it could take years to implement the new rule, as the untested issue of firing masses of federal workers makes its way through the courts. There are a lot of legal sides to that. There are people that think it will be difficult. There are many people that think, no, it actually won't be difficult. That's part of what Vivek and Elon Musk are working on with their Department of Government Efficiency. Vivek is a Harvard-trained lawyer. He's extremely intelligent. And other lawyers that know this kind of stuff really, really well have also said, no, you can reclassify these people, reassign these people, lay off people en masse, and there's nothing they can really do about it. We're certainly going to find out because this conflict is going to come to a head in a couple of months. Quote, the protections that Biden put in will help, but it will be a fight, according to Acting General Counsel of the American Federation of Government Employees, which represents some Justice Department employees, though not prosecutors. Jack Smith's office is comprised of dozens of attorneys, FBI agents, and support staff from across the Justice Department, many with specialties in national security and public corruption cases. Some are former Justice Department employees plucked from the private sector. Most, however, are mid and upper-level career staffers on detail to the special counsel's team from divisions within the main Justice Department or from U.S. attorneys' offices around the country. In past special counsel investigations, such staff attorneys typically have returned to their regular jobs after their temporary assignments concluded. Some members of Smith's teams have already done that. In other cases, departments that have loaned employees have not yet been informed when or if they will return, according to a person familiar with the situation, who, like others interviewed, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss personnel matters. Plans for federal election fraud investigations in swing states are less well defined, but several officials who defended the 2020 voting in key battlegrounds said they've been bracing for the possibility. Yeah, because really, when they look behind and they say, okay, you guys claimed that there was a thorough investigation, and the investigation found out of the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., they had their own elections people that do look into election fraud. They claimed that they looked into it and there was no widespread fraud. There was no fraud, nothing worth pursuing further. They checked it out. There was nothing there. Well, they had better have the documentation to present for that, because if they don't, they could be part of some kind of criminal probe, something much more serious than just trying to find out what happened. Quote, since there's no malfeasance, we will certainly work with anyone who wants to investigate our work, said Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Quote, but we will expect them to act with integrity and go where the facts, not their agendas, will lead. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. You just give them the information that they request. Give them full answers to all their questions. She's in Michigan, so make sure your Michigan employees are available for interviews with the federal investigators. That's all you need to do. Funny things might have happened in Michigan, though, in 2020, so we'll see how that all works out. In September, Trump claimed without evidence in a social media post that there was rampant cheating in 2020 and promised that those responsible would be, quote, prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. Trump continued, please beware that this legal exposure extends to lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and corrupt election officials. Those involved in unscrupulous behavior will be sought out, caught, and prosecuted at levels unfortunately never seen before in our country. Among the accusations Trump and his allies have lobbied at Benson and others, they allowed the counting of ballots from non-citizens, dead people, or out-of-state residents. They illegally altered election rules during the coronavirus pandemic, meaning that they changed rules for elections and rules for counting votes without getting the permission of the legislature, which is what they're legally required to do. And that allowed cheating to occur, and they barred GOP poll watchers from observing voting or counting. If you've ever seen the memes of people putting up big white pieces of cardboard blacking out windows, that happened in Michigan, where GOP poll watchers and GOP election monitors were literally thrown out of the counting rooms because the Democrats didn't like how they were conducting themselves. So they blocked the windows and threw them out and wouldn't let them observe them because they were calling out problems that they thought were inappropriate vote counting. One individual close to Trump's transition effort, who had heard of the possibility that the new administration would investigate alleged 2020 fraud, said it's possible such an effort could be led by Trump-appointed U.S. attorneys in the battleground states, but it could also be assigned to a task force or special counsel. What's clear is that the effort would reside within the Justice Department, and the incoming president's selections so far to lead that law enforcement agency are loyalists, either people like Bondi or Gates who stood by him unwaveringly, even after January 6th, or personal attorneys who have helped defend him against criminal allegations. Bondi is a former federal Florida attorney general who worked in the Trump White House during the first administration. To fill out the rest of the top Justice Department leadership, Trump has said he will install 3 attorneys who represented him in the federal cases brought by Smith, but also his state prosecution in New York, in which Trump was convicted on 34 felony accounts of falsifying business records related to a hush money payment ahead of the 2016 election. Another completely ridiculous case. The president-elect announced he would nominate Todd Blanche to be the Deputy Attorney General, the second most powerful position at the Justice Department. Emile Beauvais, another defense attorney, would be the principal Deputy Attorney General. And Trump said he would nominate D. John Sauer, who argued his landmark presidential immunity case in front of the Supreme Court, to be the nation's Solicitor General. But Jack Smith will probably resign because he said he would resign before Trump takes power. The issue with the Justice Department is the Justice Department has their own ideas about what they think is appropriate, what they think is reasonable to do, and what your constitutional rights ought to be and ought not to be. It mixes completely with their leftist political ideas. This is a big problem. They don't have like half conservatives and half liberals, and then they figure it out between the two, and then there's this law and this respect for the Constitution that goes above politics. It doesn't work that way. Not only do they not have the respect for the law and respect for the rule of law above all politics, but they have, like, say, half conservative, half liberal. No, they don't have any of that. It's like all liberal at this point. And there is no higher authority that they think about. They don't think about the Constitution absent from their politics. Trump knows he needs to go in and clean all of this out, hold people accountable, and also deal with the 2020 narrative. I don't know what happened in 2020. I wasn't there. Everything I've seen, and I've seen a lot, makes me really uncomfortable about how 5 states all at the same time in the middle of the night were supposed to have stopped counting, but then they started counting again and had enormous ballot dumps. We'll see what happens after the criminal investigations. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.